in the news. Ladies and gentlemen, even though this happened maybe a week ago, we still know what happened. We have to ask that question. We have to ask what your thoughts on the Juwan Howard incident at the end of the Wisconsin game. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to play that clip just to refresh everybody's mind on what's happened. Give me one quick second. There she blows. So clearly, there was a lot going on there. As you saw, it looked like Juwan Howard was trying to go past the Wisconsin coach. However, the Wisconsin coach impeded his progress. Juwan Howard looked continually be saying, "Hey, do not put your hands on me," and even looked like he was backing away. And then you have the external forces come in there and do what they did. Mm-hmm. Katie, we see the M right next to you. We know you are in Fowlerville, Michigan right now. Talk to me. Tell me what you're thinking. What do you think of that video? What do you think of the whole situation?
Well, I think his suspension was too steep. Mm-hmm. I think our AD was weak in his statement to the public. I think he was trying to act like the bigger university, the bigger man, and taking blame for what Juwan did. But if someone tells you not to put their hands on you and you are consistently being touched and aggravated and antagonized, and, you know, it was complete BS that guard called that timeout at the end. It was kind of a gloating timeout.
Yeah.
And you can always take the higher road, but he seemed to take the low road and did a low blow by doing that. Mm-hmm. And all Juwan said to him was, "I'll remember that shit." Mm-hmm. Sorry for my language, but that's exactly what he said.
You're absolutely right.
But that doesn't mean that gave guard the ability, just because he verbalized that, to put his hands there and stop him. When Juwan just wanted to blow by him, say, "I'll remember that shit," get out of that gym without incident, and guard wouldn't allow that to happen. So, in my opinion, if I was touched and I told someone not to touch me, how many times? I don't know if I could handle it. And then when the assistant came in and started shoving Terrence Williams, and that seemed to get blown over, you're going to do something to defend yourself. You're going to do something to defend your players. Right. Was it the right way of defending himself? Probably not. Probably not a good way to defend Terrence Williams, but he did it. We all have our human nature. We all have our tendencies to only get pushed to so far before we have our human nature takes over. And I think that's what happened with Coach Howard, is his human nature took over, and he defended himself. He defended his player. And I think it's BS that Terrence Williams got a 1-game suspension for that, because he was only trying to keep the peace. He didn't touch anybody in a defensive manner.
Right.
But he gets a 1-game suspension. Yes, Moussa Diabate. Yes, he did come out. He did show aggression. I agree with his 1-game suspension. But to suspend someone 5 games, give him a $40,000 fine. And yes, I know in the past he had his incident with Turgeon from Maryland, but this is his first major offense where the Big Ten is holding him accountable, and he's gets this huge suspension and this huge fine, and here guard, he gets to touch Juwan when he's not asked to, and gets only a $10,000 fine, and the university's paying for it, and the assistant doesn't get anything.
Yeah.
I'm outraged.
Yeah.
I'm outraged as a Michigan fan, because I think, yes, he deserved a punishment, but not what he got. And I think in hindsight, the Big Ten, I mean, it's why we wear shirts in Ann Arbor that says Michigan versus everybody. Because we're always against ESPN. We're always against the Big Ten. We're always against everybody. We're against the Paul Feinbaums of the world. We're against everybody. So we wear Michigan versus everybody for a reason, because it seems like when it comes to our university, we don't get a break. And that's my opinion on the matter.
Yeah.
So
yeah. There it is. There it is. And look, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And look, we have to be honest. A year ago at this time, you guys were riding high. Michigan, Juwan Howard, they were riding high. They were the top of the Big Ten. They were cruising into the tournament. And this year has been a struggle. They're, 14-10. You know what I mean? They're on the bubble like we've talked about before. And a lot of times there's a lot of things that can pile up. But, Nathan, I'm coming to you. There's unwritten rules, okay? You played it, and I referenced it the other night when I was talking to Sydney. You played it all the beginning of your year. The Vic Fangio clip when the Ravens, where he thought the Ravens are continued to run and doing that type of thing. Calling a timeout at the end of the game when you have a 10-plus point lead is disrespectful. So he was already hot. And then you're going to put your hands on him? I mean, what did you think about that situation, Nathan?
Well, it's an unwritten rule when you're up a certain score, don't show out. I don't really understand why call that timeout like that. I think that him trying to explain the reasoning was total bull stuff.
Right.
I'm sorry, I keep it a PG. I thought it made absolutely no sense. See, and I'm going to take it this approach, Sean. I think, in case you've watched me for a little while on my podcast, I have been, as a mass comm journalism major, the media is real quick to create narratives and spin narratives. Now, it's interesting how people have been calling for Juwan Howard's job and not look. See, we look at this is just let me back up. As a society, we always look at the effect. We never look at the cause.
Yeah.
Well, what caused it? Well, you're up a certain score, and you're calling a garbage timeout.
Yep.
You then proceed. Unfortunately, yes, as a coach, I'm going to be high rate. I'll be honest. When using football, when the Bengals killed us in Cincinnati, where Joe Burrow threw the ball, I was pissed. I don't understand the comparison of us playing Denver, but that's one of the subject for the day. Yeah, John Harbaugh was pissed, but he kept his composure. There is a certain when you do have to keep your composure, but in that moment, I feel like sometimes I think guys like Guard and others, they try to see, well, let me see how can I take Juwan Howard off. I feel like that was uncalled for.
Yeah,
I do think that what Guard did was wrong. I mean, and if you look at the video, he did say, I remember it. Putting your hands on the coach is uncalled for.
Right.
Now, I disagree with people saying we need to get rid of the handshake at the layup line. No, there is a thing. There is a thing. You have to be sportsman. Hey, look, you play to win the game. You got your butt. You got your ass kicked. You got your ass kicked. Take the loss. Go back home, or we get on the road and be prepared for the next game. But I do think that there are two distinctions. I think one is, well, Coach Guard really didn't do anything, but he provoked Juwan Howard. And again, from someone who's from Chicago, Juwan Howard's from Chicago. Those Chicago boys, they don't play.
No.
Yep. My dad told me there was a basketball player back in the day. His name was Terry Cummings.
Yeah.
There was an episode Inside the NBA. really quick. They showed a clip of Chuck Barkley with Philadelphia, and they're playing the Bucks, and Paul McKeskey fouls out. And there's a clip where Barkley elbowed McKeskey. And then, Chuck's all hyped and say, "Hey, Terry Cummings, you could have got some too." And then Katie goes, "No, you didn't want none of Terry Cummings." But my point is that there is a level of composure that you have to keep. But I also too think that both sides, there needs to be a respect of the game. Yeah. You calling a garbage timeout and a meaningless timeout does nothing. That's kind of just rubbing it in the opponent's face. Right. And number two, I gotta give his boys some credit. They stood up for their coach. They did. Now, I definitely thought it was wrong for the assistant for Wisconsin to step up and talk back. Because let me just say, we don't even know what was said to Juwan Howard to get him go that far. So I think people aren't taking that into consideration. And then number two, like, to find him, I would have given him 2 games. Because I feel like some of this is also to public outrage, to outcry. Yeah. Like, he needs to be
make an example. They need to make an example of him.
Yeah. And I just feel like there are a lot of other coaches, like Penny Hardaway, like it's kind of like, while they're kind of in the media, if they're not coaching well, then this is headline news. But you got other coaches that are doing the exact same stuff. Like when we played them last year, Mark Turgeon, he provoked Juwan Howard. That's coming from a Maryland fan. So I definitely think the suspension was foul. I do think 2 or 3. I think 2 games was best, and I think again some of it has to do with last year. I think just who he is. But also, too, I'm not going to ignore the fact, too, they're not, like you pointed to, they're not having a good year. I mean, injuries, transfers, and graduates. That's what happens when when you're a coach of an athletic program. You're going to lose some guys to graduation, transfer, and injuries. It happens. But I mean, I definitely believe it's a learn. Let's learn and grow from this. And I do apologize. I do respect. He did take accountability, but I thought it was egregious that Coach Gard basically kind of got a sympathy, got a pass, like he got a slap on the wrist, like we got your back.
Well, absolutely, and you can tell, and to your point about the players sticking up for him, you can tell that yes, they went toe to toe. As soon as it went down, they stood, they created that wall, got him out of there, and even the next game, Katie, they won that game.
They did.
Know what I mean? Yeah. Standing up for their coach. But I echo your sentiments. My whole frustration goes to that side coach. And, I understand why Juwan Howard went out there and hit him. Because if you look, Juwan Howard was being taken out of there. And then the side, it wasn't even the main coach. It was that little assistant coach, Kim. Yeah. And I'm like, hold up. You're not even on my level. No. You know what I mean? Who are you? You're not good. You're right.
Right.
So yeah, and you know what? And honestly, going back into the good old days, that you would have smacked him upside his head, like stay in your place. You know what I mean? And young Buck, he's trying to get too hippie hop, whatever. But I honestly think that we know what Juwan Howard is to Michigan. Katie, I think you can attest to this.
The Fab Five.
This is the thing. He's usually so cool, calm, and collected. Yeah. He's the coach that goes to the main center of campus and hands out donuts at the beginning of each semester.
Yep.
And he's such a good guy. I mean, he never even had an incident his whole how many years playing in the NBA?
Right.
Well over 20 years. The Wizards, the Heat have nothing but good things to say about him.
And the thing is, Mark Few gets a DUI, gets a 1-game suspension, and gets to come back and play. Like, where's that standard of teaching men how to be men and be responsible?
There's definitely a different narrative.
So is there a double standard for a coach like Mark Few versus a coach like Juwan Howard?
Well, and we've definitely highlighted it a couple times on the pigment of your skin might play a factor, because it's unfortunate. But Juwan Howard definitely got a lot more criticized and has done a lot less than I've seen a lot of crazy coaches do. You always talk about Bob Knight and all this stuff.
Bob Knight, Tom Izzo.
Izzo's able to accost basically Gabe Brown, and it's called coaching. So you know what I mean?
But again, it goes back to the media too. It's how they spin and
it's the same thing. He put his hands on someone. It was his own player.
Hey,
he put his hands on someone, and it's excused. Juwan Howard put his hands on another coach. It was not excused.
Now, to be fair, really quick. Now, there have been coaches. I remember there was one year. It was Rutgers basketball. It was caught on camera where this coach. I can't think of who the coach was at the time. But was literally abusing his players by throwing basketballs at them, getting in their face.
I heard about that one.
And I asked Dad. I said, Dad, how would you feel if I played for a school like that and you saw that? He said, I went up at that school and you'd probably see me on the news with in jail. But
it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Now, I got to fight back. I got to fight back on the Michigan State thing, because I did see that. He didn't accost him. He was a father figure telling the boy, hey, don't walk away from me.
But that's your way of doing it. But for some other person, they would
exactly. That's the same thing. The same thing for Howard.
Right.
Some other person might say. So it's all how we perspective and how we look. I'm not disputing anything. I'm just saying, I got to live in this house. I got to say something for Michigan State. Look, we have to move.
Really quick before we move on to the next. There was a funny moment after that brawl. There's an assistant coach in Wisconsin. It's on Twitter. He did the DX job.
Did he? Really?
He said something, and you can see him. He did the DX job.
Did you see the coach that supposedly was like mutilated and he barely had a bloody lip from it?
Oh, I saw that.
And on Twitter, and he's smiling with his barely bloody lip.
See, I loved the people that came in at the very end once it's over. Like, hold me back, Like, no, you were nowhere near it when all that stuff was going on.
So I just hope it gives the guys the ammunition they need to play well for Phil, the Godfather Martelli, play well for the other assistants. Some of the guys are rocking black socks and black shoes for Howard, mimicking the Fat 5 days. Like, Coach, we're in support of you. So I just hope it gives them the ammunition to just run and just show off. Yeah. Shock the world, as Juwan would say.
We'll see. We shall most certainly see. Next, coming into something that, another thing that I want to get into in here, we're not just going to dive into men's, but we're also going to dive into women's college basketball. And I'm going to tell you, the women's game rivals, if not better than the men's game. I mean, if you watch those games, the NCAA tournament a year ago, the women's by far was better, in my opinion.
Oh, it was.
Baylor should have beat UConn. That was a foul.
I do. Yes. I definitely agree. I definitely agree with that. I remember they was all up in her face. I was like, come on now. So I am so excited to see